episode of our Elevate mini-series where we feature the people, businesses, and events that we think our guests will want to hear about. And today we have a show that Candace put together. I'm very excited about it because it had some personal application. But Candace, why don't you tell us what our show is today?
I will do that, but can I talk about why it has a personal application first?
Oh yeah, that's probably.
So yes, because I don't want anybody to assume anything about me. Let's be really clear about what's going on here. So Tom and Nicole are expecting in November, baby number 3, baby Cole number 3. We are very excited at Elevate. We're excited. In our household, my daughter has become close with Tom's kids. And so we're excited and just want to say congratulations publicly. I know you announced it on Facebook, but I wanted to say it here on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, Nicole was saying today that there's a graphic of like Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, where like the guy has 3 raptors out in front of him, and she's like, "That's what we should have used for our announcement." And
oh yes,
probably right. I'm not really ready to be outnumbered just yet, but
well, Harper's a huge dinosaur fan too, right?
She is, and she's a good wrangler too. Except she's a little rough. She's a little bit rough of a wrangler.
That would have been perfect for sure. Well, my brother and sister-in-law have 3, and it's a whole different ball game. So get ready. I am thrilled to welcome our guest to the show. We have Sam O'Neill, who I have known for many years as a former colleague and good friend. She's the senior advisor in the office of the county executive for Baltimore County. And so we'd like to welcome her to the show. We also have Delora Sanchez Ifekauche.
You got it.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, I was trying to get that right. Who is the principal at Cornerstone Government Affairs, and we are thrilled to have her join us on the show as well. And we have Mollie Byron, who's the Director of Government Accountability for Prince George's County. And so we could have had a separate show and talked individually with each of you all about, about your very important jobs and about what you do, but we are thrilled that you are joining us today to talk about what it's like to be pregnant during a pandemic. And so we appreciate having you here, and we want to hear your perspective, and then we'll have you back at a later date to talk about your really impressive, extraordinary work in Maryland. So first question. So the first question I have for you are all high-powered execs with really full schedules. And so how have you been managing keeping up with the demands of working from home and planning for a new baby during this pandemic? And we'll start with you, Mollie.
Okay, well, I am the only I'm the only one with a toddler home with them right now as well. So I have my 2.5-year-old son, who I'm hoping you guys cannot hear cry it out to his nap right now. My husband is legal counsel at Uber, so he's home all day working, dealing with all kinds of cool new stuff that Uber's cooking up. And half the time I forget I'm pregnant because there's just so much going on in Prince George's County. We're kind of the epicenter, unfortunately, of the coronavirus right now. So we have some really unique issues that we're tackling in the county. And on top of that, every once in a while, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so breathless. I must have COVID-19. But fortunately, I'm just breathless because I'm cooking another human in my body. So far, so good. I'm due in July. Probably should start getting the house ready and that kind of thing. But just grateful to be home, and that so far this has been a really chill pregnancy, and that I have a job that I can work from home from right now with my family to keep us all safe.
Great, thanks. And Sam?
Yeah, like Mollie, Baltimore County is also, we're in the top 3 jurisdictions that are experiencing very significant cases. And from my perspective, the management has been a little bit of, getting into the routine, right? So, every day there's a consistent sort of onslaught of conference calls that I'm on and participating in. So I've got some consistency, I've got a rhythm, I'm checking in with the other senior staff members in the county executive on a regular basis. So that's been nice. And I'm a big believer in compartmentalizing. So that sort of helped me adjust through a pandemic. I am due, like Delora, this month, at the end of the month. So there have been moments where, you know, I have these sort of minor freakouts, like I have to do laundry, or I have to get hangers, or I have to get the nursery ready. But the sort of work management side, like Mollie, you know, I'm very grateful to have the flexibility to work from home. I have a really supportive work family, and you know, it's been a challenging adjustment, but you know, we've adjusted.
And Delora.
So yeah, it's been a little surreal. I mean, I did quite a bit of working from home before all of this started. And I'm usually in Annapolis during legislative session. So certainly I'm not working from home during that time with that exception, right? But now everyone's working from home, and I think at first it was a little bit of an adjustment. Sometimes you're just used to being in the office and being able to get everyone together and get an answer to a question very quickly. This just results in a lot more emails, which kind of gives me anxiety. I don't like to have a tremendous amount of emails in my email box, and a lot more, you know, meetings like this. And I think it has been very busy, just kind of ensuring that we keep our clients apprised of everything that's happening with COVID-19 and how it might affect them, and interpreting everything that comes out on the federal and state level. So it's been quite busy. And I think usually by the time the workday ends, I'm just like, oh, I should go wash all those baby clothes, but I need a nap. So
It'll be fine.
It's, you get to it, but it's been interesting.
And I actually want to build off that question. Something that Sam said kind of made me think of this, is that there's certain traditions that go along with having a child. You know, a baby shower, trading baby clothes, going and picking out paints and furniture and things like that. I'd be interested in, and you all are all in different stages of that process, but how has COVID and the quarantine and everything else impacted you personally in your preparation? And also, I guess nothing's going to take away from the excitement of bringing a child into the room, but the celebration of having that baby, has it had an impact on that? I think we'll start with you, Delora, this time.
Yeah, absolutely. We had plans for the baby's paternal grandparents to come up. That won't be happening anymore. I think my friends and family have done a really good job to try to bring in some normalcy. They planned a virtual baby shower, which I was like, I don't even know how this is going to work, but it worked. You know, it was the next best thing. I didn't get to see everyone in person, but it was great to kind of see everyone on the computer. And, you know, work colleagues, you know, did the same thing, just kind of tried to plan things and reach out and things like that. So I think just like anything else, any other social activity that we would usually have, people are finding innovative ways around it. It's not the same, like you said, but you know, it's there are efforts to kind of bring some normalcy into it. It's kind of sad because you always think about, oh, well, you know, if I'm going to have a shower, it's going to be this way, and I'd love to do this and I'd love to do that, and it's just out of the question. So.
And Sam?
Yeah, you know, I remember very vividly when, and Mollie probably knows this too, you know, when the executive declared the local state of the emergency, it was Friday the 13th, it was March 13th.
Yep.
And then we had this sort of like marathon session that weekend to get ready for teleworking, executive orders, you know, all of this process. And then I abruptly teleworked myself Monday the 16th, right? Well, actually, I guess it was technically Tuesday, because the executive came in and he watched a CNN segment and he was like, on pregnant women and COVID. And, you know, Johnny's incredibly, he's great. He's really supportive. You know, he's got a young family. So I think he recognized, you know, that telework was going to impact a lot of county staff. But he encouraged me to telework as soon as possible. So as all of that was happening in early March, my mom and my sister had a shower scheduled for April, like mid-April, right after Easter. We like just ordered our crib from Pottery Barn down in Annapolis, and then closures started to happen. So we were very, very panicked of, you know, am I going to be able to get material, like actually get my room, the nursery set up. And this is our first child. So you've got sort of the layer of stress as a first time, you know, expectant parent, layered with the responsibility of work. And then also just those milestones that you are missing. It's, you know, it can be stressful. It was lonely at times, but like Delora said, family, friends, work have been great. So I forgo the Zoom baby shower, but we're gonna do like a sip and see in the fall, hopefully, fingers crossed. Which is kind of my speed anyway. You know, the baby will be cute and like animated. So
maybe some of the attention off of you and on the baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Mollie?
Well, Sam, the one thing I have to say is the upshot is you don't have to deal with any of those lame baby shower games.
It's so true.
Tie the toilet paper around your belly. Much toilet paper.
And then I can have like a drink. You know, I can have a cocktail in a couple months. So.
You can have a cocktail now. There's no judgment.
Not on the show.
Yeah, we won't tell. We will not tell.
I feel really fortunate that this is my second baby. So although I have to deal with the fact bless you, that I have to deal with the fact of taking care of another person while I'm pregnant, I feel a little more comfortable that I kind of know what I'm doing, sort of, maybe not, maybe I'm fooling myself. Some of my girlfriends are talking about having a Zoom sprinkle. So like Delora said, I don't really know how that's going to work, but like, I really appreciate them trying to do that for me. And I would say the biggest thing I'm missing is I really leaned on my mom a lot my last pregnancy. And I know like as a new mother, you know, I really leaned on my mom a lot. It brought a like new level of our relationship because I finally appreciated how shitty it must have been for her being a new mom. So I'm just missing being able to be with her in person and, you know, having that one-on-one time with extended family. So that would probably be the biggest thing that I'm missing and that I know I'll really miss when the baby gets here. So
yeah. The one thing I was bummed about, like with the whole shower thing, and this is very practical actually. I had no like baby clothes like ready to go, like legit no onesies, nothing. Because at a shower, you know, you get all these adorable presents, and you know, I had very functional things like crib, changing table, like we got all that stuff, and obviously built a registry. But fortunately, my sister has two daughters, so she literally came up, like when social distancing was in place, she came up, literally dropped like a basket of, I call it my starter onesies. And then more, you know, friends and family started sending me stuff like through Amazon and Target. But it was oddly very stressful because I was like, I don't know how to clothe this child actually during the pandemic.
Well, I actually have a whole outfit for the baby that I was planning on bringing to your baby shower, but I'll have to figure out how to get it to you. We'll work that out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So I had a baby 20 years ago. And actually at that time, I was worried about Y2K, right? Like, so she was born in January of 2000. And so it was like the 99 to 2000. There was all this conversation about what Y2K was going to look like. It pales in comparison to what you all are dealing with. I haven't paid attention to this, obviously, because it's not something that I need to pay attention to. Is there enough information out there? I know that you mentioned there were some things on CNN about women in pregnancy during COVID-19, Sam, but is there enough information out there? Are you finding that you can find all of the information that you need to successfully bring your baby into the world? And we'll start with you, Sam.
Yes and no, right? So I think there's a lot of clickbait out there, which is, you know, it's hard not to be completely overwhelmed with information. One, just on the virus, you know, information about the virus, and you know, from our day-to-day jobs managing from a county perspective, what our response and recovery strategy is, and working in that lane. I think I rely on experts. I rely on health professionals. I rely on my OB, you know, my doctor. And, you know, from sort of like planning for this, it's what do I need to do to keep myself and my baby healthy and safe, right? Eric, my husband, has been really conscious of if he's out and about, like obviously he wears his mask. He is very good about washing his clothes, like disinfecting. So we're practicing what health experts have been saying all along from the onset of this pandemic. And I think that's the most important thing, is lean on your network, talk to friends like Delora and Mollie who are going through it, lean on people who can give you sound advice, but don't be overwhelmed and don't feel the need to click on every single article or read, you know, see every sort of segment, because it's going to get in your head. And I don't think that's healthy in the long run.
And Delora?
Yeah, I would agree. Really just trying to focus on what your doctor and really experts on this issue are saying. That the problem that I've seen, or that I feel like I've dealt with, is that the information changes all the time.
Yes.
So you think that, you know, there's no issue for pregnant women, and then you start to see a study of all the pregnant women and what happened with their babies, and you know, just different complications, and it can be very scary. And while I try not to look at everything, to a certain degree, like Sam was saying, we have to really stay apprised of what's happening, because by virtue of the work that we do. And so, you know, you might be looking at something that has to do with PPE, and then the next article is about some story of a pregnant woman who had some kind of complications, or was in New York and her partner was not able to be there when she gave birth. I mean, it gets rough, you know, but I try to avoid taking in too much that I don't need to, and really kind of focus in on what's most important, and try not to worry about the things that you can't control. So I just we do everything that we can to stay healthy and to, you know, stay protected and listen to the doctors. A lot of my appointments have gone to telemedicine for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, try to shut out the rest, but it's been a challenge.
And Mollie?
Yeah, Delora touched on something that I think has really been an issue for me, which is that, you know, we know, but we don't really know. So like constantly the science is evolving in this. I'm someone that I like to know all the things, and that's how I feel more comfortable and calm about stuff. And this is something where every couple weeks there's new information that's coming out on childbirth and women, you know, pregnant women being, you know, the perfect hosts, and, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff. There's practical stuff that I'm trying to, you know, figure out, like, do I need to, my son won't come with us to the hospital, obviously. So do I need to like quarantine him away from the baby when he gets back from his grandparents? He's going to see his grandparents then. Is that safe for him to see his grandparents? I was really fortunate to be able to, I was really successful in nursing my son. What if I have COVID? They're saying breast milk is not a way you can give your kid COVID, but who knows? Am I gonna have to wear a mask when I deliver? That does not sound fun. You know, some just basic stuff that my doctor doesn't always have the answer for yet, because I think we don't really know. And I think we all just have to see what this experience is like and do the best that we can with the circumstances we've been dealt.
I have a question relating to working from home that I sort of think about as a parent, but with you all, I'd wonder sort of for those, both Mollie, you already having a child, and those of you that are expecting your first, in many ways, working from home is a blessing. We can go put the kid down for a nap and then come back to our work desk. But in other ways, especially its persistence and how it pervades all parts of our work right now, it doesn't go away. And I'd be curious to hear your comments on, like, just as an example, when we had my son, my paternity leave was not as sort of strict as I would have liked. It was sort of touch and go, work on my computer, work in the office, take phone calls, but I wasn't able to be as present as I would have liked. Have you all thought about that in terms of work from home is now just it's what pretty much all of us are doing? Are you concerned about the ability to put up a wall? Because all of you serve irreplaceable positions in your work, and you're of such a high leadership position. What do you have to say to that? Let's start with you this time, Mollie.
Well, I work for a mom. I work for Angela, also Bruxton County Executive of Prince George's County. My chief of staff is a mom. She has 3 kids. A lot of our senior leadership is moms. So it's something that certainly my old boss, Governor O'Malley, was awesome and super supportive. And I've always worked for really supportive men, but just having that experience of working for a principal who's like, hey, what trimester are you in? I remember those Braxton Hicks contractions, hang in there, it's really cool. And I feel supported in a way that I think I'm really fortunate of. It's going to be hard for me to draw the boundary when the baby comes, just because I'm so passionate about the work we're doing right now, and feel like there's such a, what's happening here is really hard to remove yourself from. But I know that my team at work is going to be really firm and and supportive in trying to get me to cut the cord a little bit when the baby comes. So, and I'm also really fortunate. My husband has great paternity leave. A lot has changed. I hope this experience for you having paternity leave, you're able to have more boundaries, but I think things have come a long way lately with paternity leave. So I know my partner will be there to pitch in as well a lot.
Sam?
Yeah, building off of that for a second, my husband is self-employed, so we've got a really nice system going on where, like I said, I have sort of these conference calls that start pretty consistently at 8:30 every morning. I try to, do my mental health walk midday with the dog, which is something that as a team we've emphasized. It's check in with your colleagues, even if it's not even work related. It's just how are you doing, how are you holding up, do you need anything? We also have our senior staff is fairly young, a lot of parents with toddlers, school age children. So I am seeing a lot of my colleagues balancing full-time jobs and managing the workload and the school load for their children. Right. So having folks like that who I can sort of lean on and see their experiences has been really helpful. I am incredibly hard charging, so it's going to be tough for me to cut the cord, like Mollie said. There's a running joke that this baby's going to be late because that's usually that's my style. I roll in like a tornado and then sort of roll out. But I have been trying to be more mindful of the time that I need to prepare mentally for this life-altering experience. Pat Murray, who is our chief of staff, it reminds me constantly, it will never be the same. You know, you will continue to be hard charging, Sam, but your life really will never be the same. And it's such a great way. So, you know, I put a maternity memo together more for my sort of organization and peace of mind, knowing that there was a handoff on some projects, but I'm excited. You know, I really am excited for this next chapter, despite how insane the world is right now. So I think that's the perspective you also have to keep, is that it's also a very exciting time in our lives.
Well, speaking from experience, you definitely should be excited. Delora?
Well, okay, so there's certain things that you kind of have to come to terms with that you're just not going to be able to do. And I'm not saying I've come to terms with it, but like logically, I'm aware of it. So you just have to, what I've done is I also put together a parental leave memo. I went over it with my team so that everyone understands when I plan to leave, when I plan to return, what that looks like, everything that, you know, would need to be covered in my absence, anything they should be aware of. And then, you know, followed up with meetings with clients where I lead those accounts to ensure that they're comfortable and see if they have any questions and make sure that they're informed, because once the boss gets here, that's it. I mean, I plan on, you know, just kind of unplugging and I'm making that the baseline. Now, if by some miracle I'm able to actually, you know, pop in and answer a few emails, great. But I'm not setting the expectation there, because I just have no idea what's going to happen. And my husband has paternity leave that he'll be taking. And then we also have I have 2 bonus kids, so they'll be here in the summer, God willing, if they're able to travel safely, and we can work out how that might work, you know, happen with the baby. So we'll have a full house and everyone will be home. And so it's going to be an adventure, but you know, I'm just going to take it one day at a time and see how it goes and try to really unplug from the workspace.
I love it. Speaking from a bit of experience, some days it's like, it's really good that I had a shower. You know, it's going to be that kind of thing. I love how ambitious you all are. It's amazing. It's really amazing. And so you touched on this a little bit, but I want to delve a little bit deeper and give you an opportunity to talk about your support systems. And so who has supported you and who has given you strength during this time? Because I know it's an important thing, particularly, I mean, it's important in general, and it's extra important during a pandemic. We'll start with you, Delora.
So, you know, first and foremost, I think my husband's been great. He's tremendous. I mean, he's been super supportive and just always understanding and kind of anticipates a lot of things. I mean, certainly he's been through it before with 2 kids, but I haven't. And so he's just like, oh, this is this thing, and you should be doing this. And, you know, it's been kind of great to kind of have him to lean on. I don't know what I would do trying to figure this out by myself. So, and then also my friends and family and my work colleagues. I mean, I just have to say everyone that I kind of in my orbit have been tremendously helpful. I mean, even with work colleagues calling and saying, I mean, hey, how are you? You know, I just wanted to check in and see, you know, if you need anything, just let us know. And they're not talking about work. They're talking about, like, if I decide I have a craving for something and maybe they want to just drop it off, but they've been really great. My friends, as I mentioned before, have really rallied around me and tried to make this as normal as they possibly can for me, which I'm grateful for. But interestingly, I mean, aside from Mollie and Sam, I have about 3 friends that have given birth in the last 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
So I call them up a lot. And then one friend actually that gave birth back in October before all of this started. So I have a good group of like new moms and moms to be to talk to, which is nice. But you know, life is happening. People are still getting married. They're still having babies. They're still, you know, so I do turn to them a lot for advice, folks that have just had their babies and things like that. So,
Mollie?
Yeah, hearing that, I need to try to figure out all my friends that are due, because I remember during my son, when I had him and I was up at 3 a.m. trying to figure out nursing and make sure I wasn't losing my mind, how important it was to have other girlfriends that were also up in the middle of the night going through the same thing with all those hormones coursing through your body. What a critical lifeline that is. So thank you for that important reminder, Dolores. My husband has also been awesome. Just like little stuff as far as him stepping up with my son because he knows I'm tired, and handling bedtime so that I can go to sleep or pretend like I'm going to sleep and watch Real Housewives or, you know, whatever I need to do to like really unplug. I have a lot of other moms that I just, you know, talk to about stuff that make me feel like I'm not losing my mind when I'm, you know, oh, did my feet swell up this much last time? You know, was this normal? So little stuff like that. You know, my colleagues have been super supportive. I'm missing my mom, but I still FaceTime my mom like 3 times a day with my son. So she's probably getting sick of me. So I'm fortunate. I feel really supported. It's kind of weird that so much of it's virtual now, but you know, it's working. So.
And Sam?
Yeah, everyone has been incredibly supportive. So I think my mom she has expressed disappointment in not being able to be there for me. You know, she and my dad are up in Pennsylvania, so it's not like they're around the corner typically. But oddly enough, we're communicating more as a family. So I think, you know, you've got you try to schedule the FaceTime check-ins. We did an Easter FaceTime. So my mom, you know, has been a source of strength. My husband, 100%, really just knows I'm stressed out, like knows that this is a crazy time. But Tom and Candace, you know him very well. He's he's a Marine, you know, he was in the military. So he's very, you know, like this is the system. This is how we have to get through it. And has been a huge source of strength when I feel just really stressed out. And then of course, you know, other family and friends. I have, my best friend is expecting later this summer. So, and she has a toddler. So, you know, definitely building that network, reaching out to Mollie and Delora. I remember seeing Delora at an event before Sine Die and I was like, you're like, when are you due? And when she said her due date, it was just, it's nice to know that we were so close, Delora. I mean, we are so close. Chuck Connor, who Delora knows really well, his wife is due this month. So,
oh, yeah.
So there's this like really beautiful group of women and men in our lives right now that, you know, you're not going it alone. So, and quite candidly, there are so many people impacted by this and don't have the flexibility to work from home, you know, are filing for unemployment. You know, these are the struggles that we all see in our whether it's on the county level, you know, or friends, neighbors, whatever else. So again, that perspective, I keep talking about it, but it really is, it's important because you have to really count your blessings and just know that you're healthy, you're safe, be respectful and mindful of what people are going through too.
Can I just add one quick comment to that? You know, it's such an interesting conversation. Before I came on this Zoom to do the podcast, I was having a conversation with mothers of college students, and it's such a similar conversation, right? Like, how do you know, we're still parents of adults, but parents of adults who are still our babies who are in college and who made a tremendous transition to go from living on campus to it abruptly, and it was Friday the 13th as well when I drove up to Villanova to pick up Milan, went from on campus living to like back at home and trying to transition and do work in their, you know, parents' home. And so, and to have that support system and have a group of folks who you can talk with regularly about the challenges and about, am I losing my mind because this happened, or, you know, what's really going on here is so important. And so I just wanted to draw that parallel because it's a lifelong, you know, thing, right? To have these support systems as a parent as you go through these milestones with your kids.
And I also want to add, I keep track of our comments on our Facebook Live as we're going on. And every once in a while, I'll read a good one. And one of our commenters said, no matter what, these new babies are so lucky to have these women as their mamas. And I agree.
Oh, how sweet.
Before we go into our last segment,
in the mail.
I did want to give you all an opportunity to, and you can answer this two different ways. My question for you is, what would you like people to know about your experience being pregnant during this time? And you can go at it one of two ways. One can be pep talks to other expectant mothers, or two, you can use this as a big comment box, because we do have, we're proud of our audience, and we've got some people in here that can affect positive change. So if there are things that can be changed, modified, you can approach it either way, or both. It's your microphone time. So we'll go back to you, Delora.
Well, I think it's one of those things that I really hope that I look back on this time and am able to tell my son stories about what it was like to give birth to him right around this time, right? But I think to other moms, I think, you know, don't, there's so much to worry about. Just try to worry about what you can control. And, you know, when people are offering help, take it. Don't say, oh, no, I'll be fine. Take the help. Take the help. Lean on your support system because they want to help. People, I think right now, we have been just had so much bad news upon us. And I think things like folks falling in love, getting married, and folks having babies, and people sharing good news is what people need right now. And they want to be a part of that. And while they can't come to a baby shower, or they can't come and, you know, sit around and help out with the baby, they want to be able to do the things that they can to contribute. And so I say, you know, allow them to, and give yourself a break and be kind to yourself, because nobody knows how to deal with this.
Yeah. Sam?
Yeah, that's right. This is, again, you know, you're going through such a significant life change, and the abruptness of all of this has really given me pause of relationships, you know, checking in with family. My grandmother is in an assisted living facility, and, you know, calling her more often, and, you know, that she had a mini stroke, like all of this stuff went down during COVID, right? Like all of this is happening, life is happening, loved ones are impacted. So that moment of self-reflection of, we can get through this, I think that perseverance is really, really important. And knowing that, you know, there is going to be the other side of this, and the new normal will look different for sure, like 100% for sure. But, you know, lean on that support system, put systems in place, whether it's work, you know, the family side, the work side, try to have a plan as much as possible, but also be flexible in those moments of uncertainty, and know that it's okay to have those moments of insecurity or weakness. I've had them often, and those are my private times. I don't like anyone to see me, you know, break, but yeah, we'll get through it. We'll get through it for sure.
Mollie?
Something that's really been on my mind, probably because the only time I leave my house now is to go to the OB to check in on on my daughter in my belly is healthcare workers and doctors and nurses and just people working in the healthcare industry. And every time I go into my OB's office right now, I'm just like, first off, I'm excited to see somebody that's not my husband or my son in person. So I'm always like, hey ladies, you know, like so excited to chat with everybody there and so grateful that they're willing to go in every day to work, so that they can keep seeing me and make sure that my baby's okay and that everything, you know, they've just been so compassionate to all of the patients going through this experience. So that's something that's really been on my mind. I know it's been on a lot of people's minds, is how, you know, how much these are our heroes, our healthcare workers. And, you know, it's something I was passionate about before this, but how important it is that people have access to affordable and quality healthcare in our country. And that's one thing that I hope after we're through all of this, that, you know, certainly changes here, is that everybody has access to the same kind of, you know, high quality healthcare that I've been able to have. So that's something that I'm thinking about a lot more these days. And, you know, people that I'm extra grateful for right now as a pregnant woman during a pandemic.
It's great. So normally we don't do these on our elevator minis, but because we have the three of you, we're doing our elevator speech questions, which are fun questions that allow our guests to get to know a little bit more about you. And I'm excited about these. So the first one is, what's the last book, movie, and music recommendation you made to a friend or family member? You've got to hit all three: book, movie, music. And we're starting with you, Sam.
Oh boy, I knew it was going to be me. Well, I mean, this is like cliche because I'm a pregnant woman. I'm reading a lot of baby books. So I'm actually toggling between 12 weeks, sleeping through 12 weeks. It's like 12 weeks and 12 hours.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so
I might need to read that one.
But I also have Bleeding Out, which is quite the opposite of a pregnancy prep book, but it's about gun violence prevention strategies. So I actually intended to start it months ago, but now I've got, you know, I'm trying to carve out a little time to do some other reading. So that's book, movie, and music, right?
Movie and music.
Oh boy. Movie, like I'm watching Netflix, Candace.
There were movies at one time on Netflix.
Well, can I deviate and say what I would recommend on Netflix?
You and Ken Ullman both want to do the first time we ever asked this question, it was a TV, but yes, we can do
it. So I finished Waco, which was really, really good.
Oh.
Man,
Sam,
I don't know if this is like an insight into my
stuff.
personality at all, but yeah, so Waco I highly recommend. I also just finished the Unabomber series on Netflix. So again, this is
wow,
like,
Sam.
Yeah. And then music.
Marilyn Manson.
What's that?
Marilyn Manson?
No. So what I've recommended recently, is that the question?
Or what you would recommend.
Oh, okay. What I would recommend.
It could be either.
So I actually love I love classic, not classical, but I like classic rock, not like 80s hair band music, but I like Led Zeppelin and obviously Rolling Stones. Little Richard just passed away, so I would highly recommend people throw on some Little Richard today. My friend and I were texting. In the 90s, there was this weird like Mother Goose rock and rhyme series, which we think was an after-school special, and Little Richard was Old King Cole in the program, and he was brilliant. So amazing.
I remember that.
So I would say Little Richard for today in his honor.
All right, that's good. Delora, book, movie, music.
Book. The last book I pushed through was Little Fires Everywhere. I wanted to I was watching the series, and I'm one of those people that I usually like to read the book if something has been adapted to, television or motion picture. But I wound up like reading the book in the middle of the series. So I read the book and then finished the series, and both were quite good. They deviated in a little bit, but they were both really good. So I would recommend that. That's a good quick read. Excuse me. Movies is next.
Yes.
Okay, I'm also going to flip to Netflix.
Thank you, Delora.
Yeah. So I'd say I haven't watched Becoming yet because I'm saving it. And so I can give it my attention.
It's so good. But you will cry.
I'm saving it. But I will say Money Heist is quite good. I initially did not want to watch it. My husband was watching it, and I just felt like it was too much of I don't look at series like an hour. I look at the bulk. So I was like, okay, so there's 4 parts. It's 1 hour each episode, and there's like 8 episodes. I said, it's too much of a time commitment. I don't want to start watching this. And he was like, no, we should watch it. And so I did, and it's really good. So I'd say check that out if you've got that amount of time on your hands. And which I think we all do to a certain degree.
Right.
And the last thing for music, I would recommend Childish Gambino did a surprise album or surprise EP. And it has some of his, 2 of his EPs from last year, Summer, which just sound like summer. And it just gives you this feeling you can go out on the deck and feel like you're actually outside. But he has some good tracks on there. I love Childish Gambino. So I thought he was going to stop doing music, and I was sad for a little while, but then he surprised everybody with this EP. So it's been good. I would recommend that.
Awesome. Thank goodness for him. Mollie.
Okay, so it's difficult for me to sit and watch an entire movie because pretty much like Elmo's on in my house all day right now, and then like I crash out. So I'm gonna also back out and say I'm watching Ozark right now. It's awesome.
Yes.
It was not overhyped. Thank you to all of my colleagues that were like saying you're crazy not to have watched Ozark. We are listening to a lot of the new Fiona Apple album in my house. My toddler will actually let us play that, so that's always a win when we don't have to listen to also Elmo's music. Big Elmo fans over here. And then books, it's really hard for me to sit and read a whole book. I am almost finished Governor O'Malley's book about smarter government, which is excellent. And thank goodness I'm almost finished because every once in a while he'll email me some questions about chapters further along. And honestly, some of the tactics he has been talking about in the book about emergency management, we've been utilizing a bunch in Prince George's. So I'm glad I finally got my act together and grinded through. So I'm glad I have answers for all 3, even though I'm sleeping very little and working and momming a ton.
We've been trying to get the governor on the show. So next time you're emailing, make sure to tell him you were on here. So I'm hoping that all of you have at least listened to one of our podcasts before, because this question will otherwise give you pause. What is the most unpopular, benign opinion you hold? And Mollie, it's going to start with you.
Well,
now I'm really glad I got the book and movie question.
Yeah. I'm gonna tailor it to this interview and say that all childbirth is natural childbirth. And I am team epidural, just get the baby out by any means necessary. So I think that it's a complicated issue, and I'm a fan of medicated childbirth. So
I agree.
Sam?
Oh gosh. So this has been a raging debate in our household since my husband and I dated, like 15 years ago or whatever, 14 years ago. I hate chunky peanut butter. I think there's no use for it. You can't spread it on bread. You know, I get that it could be a snack because there's peanuts in it, but it breaks the bread up, and I get very angry actually when he buys it.
I can agree with that one too. Good Lord. All right.
All right, Delora. How are you going to follow up on that?
Oh man. I like Mollie's answer because I think she's absolutely right.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of hearts, by the way, Mollie.
Yeah.
Just boom, boom,
Don't
boom, boom,
share
boom.
that unpopular opinion.
I'll text you more gory details offline.
So yeah, we share that. Oh, I don't know. I think maybe it might have to do with breastfeeding. I think ladies get a lot of judgment about whether or not they're going to breastfeed. I personally am going to try my best. I'm going to give it a good go. I'm really going to try to do it. But I think mothers that decide that they don't, like, they just make the decision, I'm not going to do it. That's not what I would like to do. And that's just their decision. I respect it. So, I mean, I think you have to let people rear their children the way they want to rear their children. And hopefully I'll be able to breastfeed for as long as it's good for the baby. But if I'm not, I'm not going to like tie myself into knots about whether or not I'm a good mom. I'm going to make sure the baby eats.
Another
There's
big
also a
round
ton of equipment too. I mean, it's very overwhelming.
That is best.
Yeah. 3 for 3. I agree with all 3 of those. What podcast, if any, are you listening to?
Oh, man.
Obviously, Elevate Maryland.
Right.
correct
Come
answer.
on.
Good answer.
Yeah.
I love podcasts. I'm probably listening to about 6 right now. And they run the gamut. I listen to The Daily, which is one of my favorites from the New York Times.
Yeah.
I listen to Dateline with Lester Holt. And I also listen to Dateline about mystery murders, which I don't know, my husband said that he was getting 3 murders a week by proxy, so I had to cut back on the murders. So I stopped like listening to that as much. He was like, why do you keep listening to these people somebody's getting murdered every time I walk in the kitchen? I'm like, well, so I cut back on that one a little bit. Also listening to a lot of pregnancy podcasts. Parents.com has a podcast that I listen to. And then Joe Budden, I listen to his podcast, which I enjoy. So I love podcasts. So
Good.
Yeah.
I'm a big David Axelrod fan. I'm like obsessed with David Axelrod. So I listen to Hacks on Tap religiously. So that's probably the only one that has not been mentioned that I highly recommend to everybody.
All right.
Sam, do you have any besides Elevate Maryland, or
Well, daily for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, that's probably the most consistent one I listen to.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So now it's been a while since we've had Maryland folks on, and we can ask this for Maryland, but what is the best meal in Maryland? And I forget where I'm supposed to start, so I'm just going to start with you, Mollie.
Best meal in Maryland. Whatever my husband makes for me tomorrow for breakfast, I can sleep in. No.
It has to be something that you can go out. So here. I'm going to modify the question, and hopefully this works. When both instances in which my wife had our children, she had a meal in her head for what she wanted brought to have after she had the baby. Have you thought about that at all in terms of?
It has to be Maryland specific, Tom, or no?
Well, your husband or family member is going to have to be able to carry it into the hospital. So what would that answer be?
So I have really a strong positive memory about the night before I delivered my son. I went down the street to Pizzeria Paradiso in lovely Hyattsville. All the best restaurants in Maryland are obviously in gorgeous Prince George's. Sorry, Sam. No, just kidding. No. So I had pepperoni pizza that night. My husband does not eat pork, so it was like a real treat to eat some pepperonis. They were delicious, and that brought the baby. So I think if I don't have pepperoni before I deliver, I'm going to want a tasty, fancy pepperoni pizza from Pizzeria Paradiso.
There we go. I'm liking how this question's going. Sam?
So I'll answer two ways. So we are trying to patronize a lot of local restaurants right now. Franco's, so we're huge pizza fans. Franco's in Catonsville is amazing brick oven pizza. So I'm craving a lot of carbs too during this pregnancy, a lot of bread. So Franco's 100%. The meal I want like immediately, I have been missing, and I'm originally from Pennsylvania and I love hoagies so much. So I am missing like just deli meat, so much deli meat. And I know you can put it in the microwave and like you can whatever, but there's just something about like a delicious Italian BMT slathered in mayonnaise and oregano that I want immediately. Yeah.
All right, Eric, listen to that.
Yeah.
All right, Delora.
So I'll answer both questions. I'm a Baltimore girl, so you got to have Maryland blue crabs. That's the best. I mean,
do you have a spot you like to get them from in particular?
I like Cantler's.
Oh, good choice.
So good. And we've been there. We've taken, and they're great, by the way, anybody that's looking for crabs, because you just order them, then you call them when you're outside, you roll down your window and they put it in your back seat or in your trunk and you don't have to touch anything.
Oh, wow.
It's fantastic. But for after I have the baby, I mean, I think people aren't aware of all the things that we like cannot have when you're pregnant. And I was an adventurous eater before I was pregnant, so a lot of people thought I ate weird things or think I eat weird things, but whatever. One of the first things I would like is real sushi.
I was waiting for someone to say sushi.
Yes.
Real
Choice.
sushi. And not the cooked stuff, because the cooked stuff has been helping me get by, but
or like an avocado roll or something.
That's right. I do the shrimp tempura roll because it's all cooked. And then oysters, because you can have oysters, and then you can't bring that into the hospital, but mama's going to get some oysters at some point after giving birth.
Tom, Eric and I did bring up, we were talking about like what drink I wanted immediately. Not immediately, but what drink of choice. And I love gin and tonics, but like I miss Dundalk Calling. I miss Key Brewing. I miss like good IPAs. So definitely will support a lot of Maryland craft, the craft scene for sure.
Well, that's a good way to get attention, to just crack open an IPA and
can't wait. Maybe a sip.
What activity or hobby have you rediscovered during the quarantine?
Sleep.
Second, and we'll start with Sam.
Well, I think you guys know I'm a pretty avid runner, so that's not really I didn't rediscover that. I actually tried to run up until the point where I like physically couldn't. You know, I'm not a big hobby person, honestly. I'm really not. I'm trying to be more organized. I've actually tried to, I'm using this time to do like more cleaning and just organizing, but I haven't rediscovered anything. I've tried to maintain like my lifestyle, you know, to the best of my ability during the pregnancy.
Delora.
Two things. The first one is sewing. I'm not like a seamstress, but I can like take in and let out things, but I started again because of the requirement for masks. And so I was making masks on a sewing machine, and I was just like, you know, I should turn on this machine more. I hadn't been sewing for quite a while, and life just got busy, but it was nice to kind of pick that back up. And probably less productive would be the PS4. I've been playing all the games on the PS4.
What's your game? What's your favorite game?
Final Fantasy.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were a gamer, Delora. Interesting.
And I like, I'm trying to get into God of War, but
I'm Elevate, bringing out all the good stuff.
I'm not into shoot 'em up bang bang games too much, but you know, so we'll see about God of War. But yeah, so that's not as productive, but I've been on it.
Nice. Mollie.
Uh-oh, my son's waking up from his nap. Oh no. So I would hold on.
You can hear him, yeah. Where's Elmo?
So I'm very proud that I'm still riding my Peloton bike every day.
Nice.
So that's a sorry.
Don't worry. If you have to go, you know what it's like.
This is your future. I don't really have a ton of time for hobbies. I think pretty soon my hobby's going to have to be doing cutting and dyeing my own hair if I can't get into the beauty salon soon. But yeah, just trying to keep all the trains running on time over here, and that's about it.
All right, we're almost done. Last two questions. And this is Candace's new question. What is the best advice you've ever received? And Delora, it starts with you.
Oh man. I've received a lot of good advice over the years. But it's hard to think of something right now on the spot. I think really just kind of anything that you're comfortable in, anything that you know, really kind of gotten to a place where just always check in with yourself. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. So, you know, really try to stretch yourself, try to challenge yourself, try to make yourself uncomfortable, do the thing that, you know, you don't think you could probably do, and believing yourself in that way. And that's always served me well, no matter what. And it's really, I guess, applicable in this first, you know, pregnancy, new mom kind of situation. To kind, you know, people have said, you'll be an expert in your baby. You'll know your baby the best, right? So I'm trying to hold on to that in my uncertainty that I already feel right now, still being pregnant, but I'll try to keep that in mind as time goes on.
I like that. Sam, what's yours?
Well, I got to give a shout out to my mom since tomorrow's Mother's Day. She's incredibly compassionate and, you know, heart of gold. So a lot of the sentiment in the O'Neill household was, you know, treat others with respect, be kind, you know, have that be your mantra in life. So love my mom very much. And she's a wonderful lady. My dad's piece of advice to me, he's a very unfiltered man at times, like a lot of dads are, but eyes open and ears open. So just hear, like, be observant. And you never know who's listening or watching you. So just always be, not in a sort of like nefarious way necessarily, but really just be observant and mindful of how you're communicating and what you're saying, but also what others are saying back to you.
All right, and Mollie with our guest.
Yes, special guest star Dio.
Hi,
You want to say hi? Want to say hi? Okay, the best, I'll do mothering advice since it's on topic, is from bringing up the French parenting book, Bringing Up Baby, which is to don't rush to your kid when they're crying.
I like that.
Let them cry for a couple minutes.
Nice.
I like it.
Very nice. And we'll end with the question that we ask all of our guests at the end of our show. And we've gotten some real gems over the years from asking this question. And so we wanted to ask you as well, what do you think we need to do to elevate Maryland?
Ooh.
Yeah. Sam, we'll start with you.
Oh gosh, there's so much. There's so much just based on what happened yesterday. Quite frankly, you know, and what happened yesterday was a lot of legislation went through either without signature or vetoed. So I think, you know, I think the way we can elevate Maryland, certainly at the local level, is, you know, keep advancing, keep innovating, keep pushing for good policy, keep advocating, right? So, these are really, really challenging times, not to bring it down to a serious level, but this is what your podcast is really great about, right? Tom and Candace, you sort of, you pull these nuggets out of the conversation. But I think Maryland has been such a leader in so many areas, and we need to keep advancing the ball. And it's going to be difficult, especially now with how uncertain a lot of local economies are, and obviously the state economy and nationally. So I think now more than ever, we need to have these real conversations about how we can advance the ball with policies like healthcare, affordability, like Mollie said, but also, what we're doing to support our residents and neighbors in need too during really challenging times.
Thank you. Delora.
Sam actually touched on exactly what I was going to say. I mean, Maryland, we've all heard people say that Maryland is America in miniature. So we have our issues and just all the kind of issues you see across the country. We have a little pocket of Maryland that might be dealing with that, and all of the kind of beautiful things like resources like beaches and mountains and in urban areas and suburban areas. Maryland has all of that. I think we have to be careful and very thoughtful about how we maintain all the resources we have, be it people, educational institutions, our healthcare institutions. They can't just go on autopilot, and we can't take them for granted. I think unfortunately we do quite a bit in Maryland, because we actually have it quite good, and we don't foster and give those institutions or those resources and people the support that they need. And I think right now is a time where we're seeing that really acutely, and we really have to focus in on maintaining that, and then also, growing on above and beyond that. And I think unfortunately we take some of those things for granted, and we don't really support or foster those institutions and just the innovation that we have in the state. Those things don't just happen. That's something that has to be really thought about by our leaders. And that's just something that we have to keep in mind as we're moving forward. Like Sam said, especially now with so many competing interests, so many, just needs that we're seeing come into light. So I think that would be helpful. Maintain what we have and grow what we don't is really kind of what we need to focus in on.
And Mollie.
Sorry about that, you guys.
No.
Okay. It's real.
Yes, that's real. That's very real. So I would say to elevate Maryland, something that I think, we're about to go into the next great, we don't really know what it's going to be like, but our economy is about to go into a huge, economic downturn. So I think that, we're going to learn a lot about, we're already learning about how these health disparities that we have are impacting different communities. Like certainly here in Prince George's, for us, we're learning a lot about how our community is more vulnerable to illnesses like COVID-19. I think we're learning a lot about our undocumented community and how they're not getting the support they need from the federal government. I think there's a lot of space for the state to be stepping up in ways that we're not currently for our undocumented populations. I think Sam touched on some of the education stuff that's going to be an even bigger issue for us here in Maryland. So I think that we have great challenges ahead of us, but great opportunities for leadership in Maryland to try to, get the state back on track and make some real progress. And hopefully, I keep seeing all these memes about, after this is over, we don't want to go back to normal. We want to take this, have this expose a lot of things that were not working and be better from it. So I think that would all really elevate Maryland.
Yeah, that's why we love to ask that question. That's really outstanding. Thank you so much for joining us. As I mentioned at the beginning, you could certainly have a show, each of you by yourself, and delve deeper into the work that you do in Maryland. But we're grateful that you came on to talk about being pregnant during this pandemic. And I have to give a shout out to Sam, because Sam is the one who actually texted me, and we were having a conversation back and forth about doing this show. And I think it's fantastic, and I'm glad we were able to do it.
Yeah, thank you all for this. I know I learned a lot from the show, and that's how I know it's a good one, because you all have so much great experience, and then great reflections having gone through this. And I can also say this is one of our more popular shows online as well. So, and that's no surprise.
No surprise.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for everything you do for our state. And as Candace said, we'll circle back.
Aw, yes, happy Mother's Day. We're supposed to say that. Happy Mother's Day. What are we doing?
Yes, of course.
That's so cute.
I probably stole Tom's thunder. I'm sorry, Tom.
No, it's fine. I before the show, I was wrapping up my Mother's Day gift down here.
Nice.
So.
Nice. Yes,
Right.
happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And,
Yes, and expecting moms as well.
expecting moms, yes.
It counts as for you. All
Thanks
right,
for
thank you,
hosting
everybody.
this, guys. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. This was great.